Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mariah and I talk about books, bookish things, and all things nerdy. If you're returning, thanks so much. I'm so happy to see you guys. This is a very special day. Today's TBR game filming day. I'm very excited about it. This month we are in the spirit of love. We are exploring one of the greatest vampire books of all time and was an important piece of founding what would become the Gothic horror literature genre, and that is Carmilla. Carmilla tells a story about a vampiress who seems to be in love with the female main character and makes some very untoward advances. In the spirit of Dracula, there is some very erotic themes suggested but never explored in the book. I read it early last year and I absolutely loved it. This month's character, for those who are following, is a romance author. So I did read for both the vampire and the romance author and the flirty outfit, because romance, why not? But if you are new here, you don't know what I'm talking about, so let me explain. In 2021, I started a new version of my TBR game based on betrayal, and I added more of a role-playing aspect where once a month I would dress up as that character and give you my my TBR for the coming month. First, I will give you a brief monologue from the point of view of that character to introduce the theme of the game for that month, and then we will go from there. So let's get to that. My publisher mentioned it's writing a book about the couple that owned the old mansion in Grave Falls. I was all for it. An unusual love story, a rural town, a mysterious mansion. Which should have been a piece of cake. The librarians were a little hesitant to let me stay after dark, but a hefty donation from my publisher convinced them to give me all the privacy I need and allow me to go wherever I wanted to. I came across the couple's old master suite. It had been changed into a meeting room, and that's where I met her. A woman who was more beautiful than I could possibly describe in words, and her eyes burned with this inner fire as if she'd seen centuries. She looked at me with an air of command and said, "You can tell my story." I told her, "No thank you," and began to pack up my things and leave. I was only after the story of the couple. Well, when I tried to leave, she smiled and said that I would be allowed to leave if I could get out by sunrise. So here I am in this creepy old library trying to write a romance novel that's probably not going to happen because I'm being stalked by a woman who thinks she's both a vampire and was in love with the former owner's wife. And to be 100% honest, I'm not sure I disbelieve her anymore. This month I wanted to pay homage to one of my favorite genres, Gothic horror, mixed with Carmilla, which I loved, but I also wanted to talk about non-traditional love. And for this, I chose the book Fledgling by Octavia Butler. This is a vampire novel written to explore the ideas of identity. Octavia Butler was a huge name in the science fiction realm, and I'm really excited to break into her work. I am so excited to start reading this, and this is the one book I have to complete next month. Regardless of if that's the only book I read next month, that has to be the book. Otherwise, I fail, my character dies, I'll have to do some sort of gruesome makeup, and I will have to take a disadvantage on next month's game, which I really don't want to do. So, let's get into the rest of my TBR by going and meeting me, except, on the Roll20 map.
The former master's suite has been turned into a meeting room, and this is where you stretched out with the information from the archives on the original owners. This is also where you ran into that woman, Carmilla, and she told her story. You're not sure how you got back here, and here we are. You should really pack up your stuff and get out of here. We rolled a 6. You fumble through the paperwork and start throwing stuff in your bag as quickly as possible, dropping your keys in your haste and being forced to turn around as you try to rush out of the room. Pick a book that is over 500 pages to teach you patience.
Whew, we're starting this off strong, aren't we? So that was that roll So that prompt was read a book over 500 pages, and for that I chose The Institute by Stephen King, which tells the story of a boy whose parents are killed right in front of him, and he's taken away to a place called the Institute, where other children who have mysterious powers also reside. This definitely reminds me of Firestarter, which I haven't read the book, but I have seen the movie. And this was lent to me by my dear friend Angelo from work, and I'm really excited to read it, although it is in true Stephen King fashion, it is a giant book. It is 557 pages.
You make it to the staircase that heads back downstairs to the main floor. You're really hoping nothing is going to jump out at you from behind the lion sculptures that guard the way down. All you have to do is make it down to the stairs to a room that has locks on the inside of the door. Let's do our roll. Any moment now, Mariah. Anytime now. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. 9. You look up and see her waiting for you at the bottom of the stairs with a smile on her face. It was a long shot anyways, but she looks at you, her eyes filled with pity, and hands you a water bottle. It's such a good story. Pick a book that someone gave to you or lent to you because they thought you would enjoy it.
Next is a book someone gave or lent to you. Obviously, I could have satisfied that prompt with The Institute, but instead I chose Mystery Mile by Marjorie Allingham. This is the second in the Albert Campion series. This was a mystery series set in England about a detective named Albert Campion, and these were originally published in the 1920s, and I just love these covers. These are the Felony and Mayhem series covers, and they're just really graphically pleasing to me. I don't know, I don't normally go for these type of things, but here we are. This one, obviously with most mystery series, especially even Agatha Christie, you can read the books in any order you want, but you will miss some of the references made to previous cases. This one is set with Albert Campion as the main character for the first time, and tells the story of an American judge who is hidden away in an English country house, and soon after, the local vicar is killed, and it's obviously a clear message from the gang that's terrorizing the judge that he's next. And Albert Campion has to sort of figure out where they're hiding and what they're doing. And I really enjoyed the first one. I really enjoyed the classic mysteries, especially classic mysteries written by women. It shows a different aspect of that time that we don't really get to see other than Dame Agatha Christie, who will always and forever be the dame of my heart. But Mystery Mile by Marjorie Allingham.
She walks with you for a while, telling you all of the amazing memories she has of her time with the previous owner. It wasn't that she wasn't fond of dear Ambrose, but Agatha filled her soul and made her heart sing. She asks if you have ever felt anything like this. Before you can answer, she stops in the ballroom. It's a beautiful room, even if it is a little gaudy. Sighing, she begins to sway as if hearing music that isn't playing. We got a 4. You attempt to escape, and she mistakes this as wanting to dance with her. Faster than you could believe, she's at your side and pulling you into a dizzying series of spins. Now there's 2 of her, or at least that's what your eyes tell you. Use a random number generator, pick 2 books off of your TBR.
So I got the prompt to pick 2 books out of my TBR jar, and the first book was Blood and War, a cultural history of terrorism. And given everything that's happened this month, I just didn't want to use it, so I used one of the items I got last month, which was the library card, to replace one of the books, and I replaced that with They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is a contemporary with sci-fi twists in it, about 2 men who are told that that get a call and they're told you're going to die within the next 24 hours. Here's this app so you can find a friend to meet your death with. And obviously they both die at the end. This is a LGBTQIA+ book, and it was lent to be my dear friend Mason over at work again, and I am not ashamed to admit that I really enjoyed the other 2 books he lent me, which was Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I read in December, and Boyfriend Material, which I read this month, both of which were really fun and quirky, and I've heard that this one's going to make me sob on my couch and curl into a little ball, so you know, always got that to look forward to. The second book I pulled from my TBR jar was The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is a science fiction and is beginning, I think it's book 1 in the Broken Earth trilogy. Yes, Broken Earth, number 1. So apparently each of the seasons in the world has some catastrophic event that goes with it, and then the 5th season is when, like, it's a world ending. It is a world ending catastrophe, and that's when this book is set, in that 5th season. I've heard that you really can't go into it knowing what happens because it's kind of important that you go in kind of blind. I'm really looking forward to reading this. I'm really looking forward to reading N.K. Jemisin as a whole. I've heard nothing but good things about her books. I'm looking forward to finally getting started with this one.
Walking to the far corner of the room, you pass a photograph on the wall and stop to look at it. It is of the original owners, Ambrose and Agatha, with a family friend. Looking closer, you realize the third figure is the spitting image of the woman you left dancing in the ballroom. Sitting down, you whip out your notebook and begin to jot down as many of Carmilla's memories as you can. This could be a bestseller. You start to feel a little drowsy as you write. Carmilla walks in as you continue to work, places your phone on the table, and looks at the photograph with a sad smile. She sits down next to you and runs her hand over the frame. You look up, open the recorder app on your phone, and place it between you. They're not going to believe it's a real story, but I'll share as much as I can. You okay with my taking some liberties? She nods enthusiastically and begins her story. Read a story that follows a female main character.
The next prompt was to read a book with a female main character, and for that I chose The Two Princesses of Bamere by Gail Carson Levine. This tells the story of two princesses, one who is very outgoing and her sister who is very shy. The outgoing sister becomes very ill, and it's up to the shy sister to go out and save the kingdom. This is my friend Elise's favorite book from her childhood, and she tells me I'm really going to enjoy it. If you're wondering if you've heard that name before, this is the same author that wrote Elle Enchanted. And now wraps up my TBR game, and the reason why it's so short this month is because I knew that I wanted to participate in vaLITines, which is a readathon being hosted by Kate, and I will leave all of that down below. So there's a bingo board, and I'll put that up right here, and 5 of them are actually activities, they're not books. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to go into my picks for the books, and I've picked one for every prompt. I'm not expecting to read all of these this month. I want to make that clear. I'm not going to read all of these books in the month of February. It's impossible. I'm not doing it. It would literally take an act of God and the cosmos to stop spinning for like 5 days for me to finish all of these books. However, maybe it will give you some inspiration on books that you can choose from your own library that you can pick for these. Let me get my notes because buckle in. So some of these are satisfied by my picks for the month. And first is Love Shack, which is read a book with a building on the cover. This can be a picture or a word. And for this I chose Two Princes of Bamere because there is a castle right there on the cover. Black Future Month. Read an Afrofuturism book. I chose Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor because I love Nnedi Okorafor and I really want to read this, and I'm waiting on my friend Julia to loan me her copy because she bought a copy and I forgot, like an idiot. But I'm going to borrow her copy, and then I'm not spending money on books. Also, I just need to buy all of the author's works because she's like an immediate read for me. It's just... This is a story of and let me point something out. Nnedi Okorafor does not write Afrofuturist. She writes African futurist. And this takes place in a near future Ghana and centers around a girl who is the goddaughter of the god of death, which sounds amazing. And that's really all I know. It's a novella, so with novellas I kind of go in a little bit blind just because I need to know. Like, it's so short that if you know too much about it, it's going to ruin the whole thing. Next is Goo Goo Eyes, which is a book with a beautiful cover. And I chose Snow Glass Apples by Neil Gaiman and Colleen Doran. This is a chilling fantasy retelling of Snow White. And It's from the point of view of a not-so-evil queen who saved her kingdom from the monster that is her stepdaughter, Snow White. And the illustrations are just... The cover is beautiful. The illustrations are just stunning. And it's a dark fantasy retelling. Please do not, please do not let children pick this up. It is not child appropriate. This is 18 plus material, people. 18 plus. Also, if you're not offended by blood and sex and cursing and things. Just throwing it out there. Trigger warnings. Words of Affirmation, a book that was blurred by your favorite author, and for that I chose Know Dracula by a gallery of rogues and scoundrels, which is a work of fiction set in the year of our Lord 1888 from the sick and depraved mind of Mr. Kim Newman. This was blurred by Neil Gaiman, which we're all aware that I have a Neil Gaiman obsession. It's been made blatantly obvious. But this is set in 1888, and Queen Victoria has remarried, which she never did in real life, but in 1880, in this alternative history horror, she remarries and takes as her new consort the Wallachian prince Count Dracula. His polluted bloodline spreads through London as its citizens increasingly choose to become vampires. In the grim back streets of Whitechapel, a killer known as Silver Knife is cutting down vampire girls, kind of like Jack the Ripper. The eternally young vampire Genevieve Dieudonne and Charles Beauregard of the Diogenes Club are drawn together as they both hunt the sadistic killer, bringing them ever closer to England's most bloodthirsty ruler yet. One, it was blurred by Neil Gaiman and he said compulsory reading because it's glorious. Two, it's an alternative history horror and Dracula has become the King of England. It's a mystery, it's a horror, it's Dracula, it's Victorian age. I'm not even sorry. On the Dracula train, the next book is Love Language. Read a translated book. And for this, I am reading a book called A Root of Ice and Salt, which is, I'll put it right here, is from a Mexican author who wrote this in the 1980s and is only now being translated into English, and is about the captain of the Demeter, which if you haven't read Dracula is the ship that Dracula is on when he arrives at England and starts the whole Mina Harker and Lucy and Van Helsing thing. So the captain of the Demeter is actually, in this book, or in this retelling, in this take on Dracula, is actually gay, and he, as much as he lusts after the men of his crew, he doesn't give in to those dark desires. And this is where I kind of stopped caring, because it's the Demeter. He knows that he's supposed to be going to England, and we all know what the end result is going to be if you've read Dracula and you remember what they found aboard the Demeter when it arrived in England. And Silvia Moreno Garcia helped work on it. I don't care anymore. That's it. That's all I needed. It's also being published by Innsmouth Free Press, which if you don't know, Innsmouth is a Cthulhu related. This book was just like wrapped up, and then it was like, here is this book you've never heard of, and then I lost my mind on Twitter. It was just a thing that happened. Moving on. Skip a Beat, which is read a book that you don't know a lot about. And for that I chose Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I have no idea what this is about. It's really short. I'm not going to read the synopsis because you're not supposed to go into it not knowing a lot. And it's one of those covers that I love, which you're not going to be able to see. But look at that. Look at that 1970s illustration glory. These are the covers that are illustrated by Robert McGinnis, and I'm obsessed with them, and there's only like 5 of them, 5 of Neil Gaiman's huge collection that are actually in these covers. I'm so happy. Also, yes, I realize that I'm reading a lot of Neil Gaiman at the beginning of the year. It's not my fault. He is so varietful. Next is Quality Time. Read a book that'll take you a long time. I chose The Institute because that's going to take me a hot minute. Gifts Read a book that somebody gave to you. Django Wexler's Ship of Smoke and Steel. This is about... I don't even know what this is about. In the lower wards of Kanzoka, the great port city of the Blessed Empire, 18-year-old ward boss Isoka enforces the will of her criminal masters with the power of Melos, the will of combat. The money she collects goes to keep her little sister living in comfort, far from the bloody streets they grew up on. When Ahsoka's magic is discovered by the government, she's arrested and brought to the Emperor's spy master, who sends her on an impossible mission, seal Soliton, a legendary ghost ship, a ship from which no one has ever returned. If she fails, her sister's life is forfeit. On board of Soliton, nothing is simple as it seems. Ahsoka tries to get close to the ship's mysterious captain, but first she must become part of the brutal crew and join their endless battles against twisted creatures. She doesn't expect to have to contend with feelings for a charismatic fighter who shares her combat magic, or for a fearless princess who wields an even darker power. Ship of Smoke and Steel is an epic fantasy adventure with cinematic combat, deadly magic, and fierce warriors facing off against unimaginable threats. It's about a bi-magic wielding criminal who has to save her sister. This was given to me, I think. It might have been lent to me, I don't know. A couple years ago, and I'm really looking forward to reading it finally. It's been on my TBR for a while. Obviously, how I mentioned I'm an awkward potato. I'm a cute awkward potato. The next is Opposites Attract, which is a book from a genre that you don't normally read, and for that I chose They Both Die at the End. 1, because it's sad, 2, because it's contemporary, and 3, because it's romance. Although I have been reading a lot of contemporary romance lately. Thanks, Mason. Next is My Sunshine. Read a book that looks or seems lighthearted, and for that I chose Lumberjanes Volume 2. I'm super excited to be continuing with this comic book series. It was just super cute, and the writing style was cute, and the little stories were... everything was cute. It was really sweet. It's about a bunch of badass girls at a camp, and they're trying to convince their counselor that all of this stuff is happening because it's happening, and she's just not having any of it. And they make her want to quit her job on a daily basis. It gives me definite Gravity Falls vibes, which I just finished watching recently, and oh my... okay, we're not going to go on that tangent. Just know that if somebody has a Waddles out there and they want to send me said Waddle stuffy, I'm not going to say no. I'm just throwing that out there. Next is Long Distance. Read a book that takes place in or draws inspiration from a culture not your own. And for this I chose to finish listening to Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. This is a African-inspired fantasy that I've heard nothing but good things about from everybody who's read it, and I started listening to a copy forever ago, and I just didn't finish it, even though I was really into it. This is a story of a girl who is raised far from everybody around her by servants because her mother, the mysterious lady, is always gone. One day her mother returns and she tells her, congratulations, you're gonna go to the prince. What she doesn't know is that her mother gives her the order that as soon as she's close to the prince, she'll kill him. Now the prince chooses from the magic gifted users in the area 7 people to become his council, and that's very critically important to the story. I think it's 7. I was really enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to jumping back in this. Audiobooks are a literal lifesaver. Next is Head Over Heels. Pick a book next is Head Over Heels. Read a book by an author whose first name is longer than their last name. And I chose A Universe of Wishes, edited by a We Need Diverse Books anthology, edited by Danielle Clayton. This is an anthology of, in the 4th collaboration with We Need Diverse Books, 15 award-winning and celebrated diverse authors deliver stories about a princess without need of a prince, a monster long misunderstood, memories that vanish with a spell, and voices that refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. This powerful and inclusive collection contains a universe of wishes for a braver and more beautiful world, which I really feel we need right now. And it comes with a handy dandy ribbon This is the Alcott edition. I did an unboxing. I'll leave it in the cards. Next is Touch. Read a book with an embossed cover. For that, I chose Crier's War by Nina Varela. This is a science fiction book about a girl named Ayla, who is a human servant to the Autome who took over the world after humans invented them, and she has to get close for the sake of the rebellion to the ruler's daughter, Lady Crier, and Lady Crier is an Automa, but she's not quite as perfect as she seems, and there are definitely sapphic vibes in here, and I'm really looking forward to that. That's it. It says one mortal, one made, one loved, one betrayed is the little tagline up here. This is the Alcott edition. I feel it necessary again to say I'm not an Alcott affiliate. I am not going to apply to be an Alcott affiliate. I don't have the time to apply to things. So, anytime I talk about an Alcott, I have paid in full for it. Next is long-term relationship. Read a book that has been on your TBR for a while. For that, I chose House of Leaves by Mark C. Danielewski. I talked a little bit about this in the 21 books that I want to prioritize in 2021. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but this is a horror book that is told in a multimedia format and is simultaneously telling you 2 stories. Well, 3 stories. I'm going to be listening to the Poe, the artist, the musical artist, second album on repeat while reading this, because apparently that album was inspired by this book, which was written by her brother. Why do I read so much horror now? I didn't used to love horror at all. Next, next, Sharing is Caring, which is read a book that satisfies a prompt for another readathon. And I chose These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This satisfies a medievalathon prompt, and it's just really pretty. It's set in 1920 Shanghai. It's star-crossed lovers, but star-crossed lovers in 1920 Shanghai, and they're from rival gangs, and they've already broken up once, and there's a monster. These Violent Ends comes out, I think, this year, which is the sequel to this. I think it's a duology. I'm not 100% sure, but it's These Violent Delights, and if you don't know, those titles come from a quote from Romeo and Juliet, which these violent delights will have violent ends, or something along that. I'll leave it down below. I can't wait to read this. It's so pretty. Next is Love Song. Read a book that reminds you of one of your favorite songs. And I chose The Golden City, which is by J. Kathleen Chaney. And it says, for 2 years, Oriana Paredes has been a spy among the social elite of the Golden City, reporting back to her people, the Sierra sea folk banned from the city's shores. When her employer and only confidant decides to elope, Oriana agrees to accompany her to Paris, but before they can depart, the 2 women are abducted and left to drown. Trapped beneath the waves, Oriana survives because of her heritage, but she is forced to watch her only friend die. Vowing vengeance, Oriana crosses path with Duelo Ferreira, a police consultant who has been investigating the disappearance of a string of servants from the city's wealthiest homes. Duelio also has a secret. He is a seer, and his gifts have led him to Oriana. Bound by their secrets, not trusting each other completely, yet having no choice but to work together, Oriana and Duelio must expose a twisted plot of magic so dark that it could cause the very fabric of history to come undone. This is a fantasy mystery involving Selkies. A Selkie, if you're not versed in Scotch-Irish lore, is a type of fairy who is a seal but can remove their seal skin to become a beautiful human being, essentially. Except that humanoid being, it's a fairy. But it's said that any Irish person who has dark hair and dark eyes is descended from a Selkie. Selkies are one of my passions. I want to get a tattoo of one, so I'm really excited to read this. I really, 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 really hope they don't mess this up. I'm going to be really mad if they mess this up. The reason why I chose that is because I listen to a lot of Lorna McKennitt and a lot of songs that have to do with the ocean and longing and grief. Next is Acts of Service. Read a book that has a quest, I think. Read a book that involves a quest of some sort. The second book in the Song of the Lioness Quartet, which is In the Hands of the Goddess by Tamora Pierce. This is also the book that we're reading for the Tamora Pierce read along if you're following that down below. This series is one of my all-time favorite series of, like, all time. This is one of my all-time favorite series. This is because this is the sequel. I can't really tell you much, but Alana, the Song of the Lioness Quartet follows a girl named Alana who has disguised herself as a boy to become a knight, and her adventures after that. This is again the second book, so I can't give you any more information about it, okay? I'm sorry. The live show for the Song of the Lioness for that book is on the last Sunday of the month. Next is Dream Come True. Read a book that reminds you of a dream that you've had. That is Hidden Sea by Gregory Maguire. This is a tale of the once and future Nutcracker. Gregory Maguire writes retellings of classic fairy tales, or rather classic stories. He rewrote the Wizard of Oz series when he started the Wicked series, Wicked, Son of the Witch, and a couple of other books in that series now. He took you to Wonderland and After Alice, and now he is headed to Nutcracker, which imagines the backstory of the Nutcracker, revealing how this entrancing creature came to be carved and how he guided an alien girl named Clara through a dreamy paradise on a Christmas Eve. At the heart of Hoffman's mysterious tale hovers Godfather Drosselmeyer, the ominous, canny, one-eyed toy maker made immortal by Petipa in Tchaikovsky's ballet, who presents the once-future Nutcracker to Clara, his goddaughter. But Hidden Sea is not just a retelling of a classic story. Maguire discovers in the flowering of German Romanticism a migrating strain of Hellenic mystery cult, and ponders a profound question. How can a person who is abused by life, shortchanged and challenged, nevertheless access secrets that benefit the disadvantaged and powerless? Ultimately, Hidden Sea offers a message of hope. If the compromised Godfather Drosselmeyer can bring an enchanted Nutcracker to a young girl in distress on a dark winter evening, perhaps everyone, however lonely or marginalized, has something precious to share. One, I wanted to read this because I love Gregory Maguire's work. Two, I wanted to read this because it's a message of hope. Three, it's winter themed and I'm running out of time. I should have read it in December and I just didn't get around to it. So now's my last chance before next winter. And don't argue with me, February's still cold, it's still winter. I'll fight you. For commitment issues, start or continue a series, I'm continuing with the Albert Campion series, Mystery Mile, and the final prompt is First Date, which is read a new to you author, and then a new to me author that I chose, although many of these authors that I said are new to me, I chose to go with the 5th season. My priority has and will continue to be my TBR game and my read-along, which is the Tamora Pierce read-along, as well as trying to read Les Mis, which isn't going that great if I'm 100% honest, and also Jeff over at Dread and Reddit's Nougats and Novels book club, which she hasn't announced the second February's book yet. Priority are going to be the 5 books that I just mentioned and part of Les Mis, which I'm doing in bits and pieces. And then after that, I have this giant stack of books that I can tackle, that I'm giving myself a lot of leeway. There's a lot of different types of books in here, and there are a lot of different lengths of books in here. So if I just don't feel like reading a long book after reading The Institute and the 5th season, I can jump into one of those, and it's not that big of a deal. But that wraps up February's TBR. Like I said, I have my priorities. I just gave you options. I was giving you options. If any of you are interested in buddy read, let me know down below and I will be 100% for that. This is a Pinot Noir, which I got recently, and it's really good. I just thought red wine was fitting for the vampire theme. All that being said, if you're ever looking for me, I can be found on all of my socials, always down below. I post here Thursdays and Sundays. I'm on Twitter a lot. I'm on Instagram very rarely. But if you're looking for ways to be a better global citizen, leave all that down below. If you're looking for what I thought of whatever video game I'm playing, which last was Gibbous, which was a Cthulhu game, check that video out. You can always check that out. Like I said, I talk about books, bookish things, and nerdy things. So if you want to keep receiving content and seeing my face in your subscription box, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment and hit that bell for notifications. Today's prompt: what are your top books that you want to read in February? And are you taking, I would love to say go ahead and take place in vaLITines, but Blackathon is going on also next month. It's Black History Month. You should 100% do that if you're interested and if you have the time. There are always links down below to help you become a better global citizen, know what's going on in the world, and try to make it a better place than what we inherited. With all that being said, I am going to leave you there, and I'm going to sign off with all the best coffee, wine, and books to you. Cheers!